So for this lesson, we're going to practice finding the greatest common factor for two terms. I am assuming that you watched the prior video on greatest common factor before watching this lesson. So with that assumption, we're going to jump in and we're going to practice finding greatest common factors of 20 and 45 on this first example. So I'm first going to find my factors of 20. So to find my factors of 20, I'm going to put 20 inside of a house, and this is going to be what I begin with. Now I know that 2 is a factor of 20, or I can divide 20 by 2. So I'm going to write out 2 on the side, and then whenever I take out a factor, that means I'm dividing out that number. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. Okay, now I know that 5 is a factor of 10 because I can divide out a 5. If a number ends in a 0 or a 5, I can divide that number by 5. So I'm going to now take out the 5. In taking out the 5, I divide 10 by 5, and I'm left with 2. Okay, so now I'm going to divide out a 2. That's the last thing I can divide out. 2 divided by 2 leaves me with 1. When I'm left with 1, I'm done. That's my last step. So my factors of 20 are 2, 5, 2. Those are my prime factors. Now I'm going to find my factors of 45x. So 45 times x. So I'm going to put 45x inside of my house, and if a number ends in 0 or 5, I can divide that number by 5. So 45 divided by 5. So 45 divided by 5 is 9, and I still have that x. Now when it comes to 9 times x, I can take out a 3 because 9 divided by 3 gives me 3. So when I divide 9x by 3, I'm left with 3x. And then when it comes to 3 and x, I can take out another 3. 3x divided by 3 is 1x. Okay, and then my last step is I can take out that x. And when I take out that x, I'm left with 1, which is what I want. Now I want to find my greatest common factors. So what are my numbers that these two factors of 20 and 45 share in common? Well, they both share the factor of 5. That's actually the only factor they share. But even though that's the only factor, that would still be my greatest common factor. So my answer, or my greatest common factor of 20 and 45x is positive 5. Now for the second example, I have 15 times r and 25, and I'm trying to find my greatest common factor for these two numbers. So I'm going to start with my first term, which is 15 times r, and put that in my house so I can factor it out. And factor out means you're dividing out the factors. So I know that when a number ends in 5 or 0, I can divide by 5, so I'm going to take out a factor of 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3, so I'm left with that 3 in the r. Now I have 3 in r left, so I can take out the 3. 3r divided by 3 leaves me with 1r. And then with 1r, I can take out the r, or divide out the r, and I'm left with 1. And that's what I want. I need to have 1 left over, so I can't factor out anything else. Now I'm going to do 25. That's my second term. So I'm going to put my 25 inside my house. I know that I can take out 5, or divide out 5, that's a factor. 25 divided by 5 is 5. And out of the term 5, I can take out another 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Again, I want to have 1 at the very bottom. So my greatest common factor is 5. Now I want to show you how you can check your answers in these problems. So let's try another one, and I'll show you how you can check your answers. So we're going to do number 4, or excuse me, we're going to do number 3. And number 3, we are finding the greatest common factor for 8 times x times y, and 14 and x, 14 times x. So the first one I'm going to do is 8xy. So I'm going to put my 8xy inside of my house so I can factor out my factors. So the first thing I'm going to take out is my number 8. Or actually, I think I'm going to do 4. So I'm going to take out a 4. Now, 8xy divided by 4 leaves me with 8 divided by 4 is 2. So 2 and then my x and my y. Next, I'm going to take out my 2. I'm factoring out my 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1xy. Then I can take out my x, and I'm left with y, or 1y. And then I can take out my y, and I'm left with 1. So my factors of 8xy are 4 times 2 times x times y. And I can check this by multiplying my factors together. 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times x is 8x, 8x times y is 8xy. And that's what I started with. Now I'm going to do my factors for 14x. So I'm going to put 14x in my house, and I can take out 7. I'm going to start with that. So 14 divided by 7 is